Stress is very different for all of us. So the question is, recognize the warning signs, and here's the killer.
Stress is known as the silent killer. Apparently, over 17 million working days a year are lost because of stress. Now, I find that hard to believe. Being a child of the 90s or 80s even, I thought that stress was a good thing. But according to my guest today, Carole Spiers, it really isn't. Isn't that true, Carole?
Stress is not a good thing. What people do get confused about, what is a good thing? And very simply, pressure is good, stress is not. That's all you have to remember. With all the countless definitions that there are about stress and pressure, remember that pressure is good, stress is not. So, what is pressure? Pressure is good for you. Pressure gets you up in the morning. Pressure is a motivator. Pressure gives you the drive and the energy to do something. You don't want to lose that out of your life. You really, really don't. So, what is stress? Very simply, stress is too much pressure. So, when you feel unable to cope, can't manage it, start doing lots of negative self talk like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, all that kind of stuff, then you know you're experiencing stress. Where do we want to be? We want to be with healthy pressure because we can actually thrive on pressure, which is exactly what we want to do. We do not, repeat, do not want to be in the stress zone.
Well, I stand corrected then. And I know you have an MBE, so you must have done something where you're used to working under high pressure, but managing the stress. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how people who perhaps aren't so experienced can turn the bad thing into a good thing rather than just trying to macho it out, as I was always taught.
Okay, look after the good things. Make sure you can manage your life. Make sure that you are controlling yourself, you're controlling your life, on your life controlling you. When you're actually needing to just always do something and always on to the next thing and connectivity, I'm on my mobile phone all the time and I can't get away from it, then you can see at that particular point, the chances are you're beginning to get stressed. Stress is cumulative, meaning it builds on itself over and over again, whether it's physical, mental or behavioral. It's going to be actually going to be getting to you and it's going to build on itself. Can you get away from it? No. Can you manage it? Yes.
Well, you may be able to manage it, but I know I'm not very good at managing it. And so we'll hopefully get some tips from people from you for people such as myself who find this quite difficult. In fact, you know what? I'm not even sure I know when I'm stressed. I mean, we were always taught that if you're feeling stressed, work harder. Or as Arnie says, if you're feeling sleep deprived, sleep quicker. How do we get out of this mentality where we just soldier on and eventually it leads to bad outcomes?
Signs of stress are there. The warning signs of stress are there for everybody to see, whether it's physical, behavioral, or emotional. Waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody listening to this who's not going to be aware of waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and not being able to get back to sleep at night and sitting there with the phone in their hands. So, therefore, that's one of the signs. Excessive signs, excessive tiredness, having no energy, lots of negative thinking, always eating the wrong foods on the run the whole time. There are lots of signs and symptoms. Stress is very different for all of us. So the question is, recognize the warning signs, and here's the killer, the easy one to do, not so easy to do, actually do something about it. Because it's all very well recognizing the warning signs and saying, I'm not sleeping, can't eat, doing everything badly, shouting at the world. It's all very well to do that, and that in some ways is fine. However, recognize those are warning signs because you can't beat the system. Because what happens is you get to the situation where it's work overload, and because it's work overload, life overload, everything is overload, everything is out of control. And then you get to the position where, like, it's that, what am I doing to myself? I just can't get any quiet time for myself. So recognize the warning signs, do something about it. It does mean that you possibly could end up going to the doctor. And the doctor is going to give you 3 minutes of their time, if you're lucky, and say something to you like, oh, you can't sleep at night, Carole. Don't worry about it. Well, let's get you some sleeping pills. But the sleeping pills may be good for short term, but they're not good for long term, together with what are the causes of you not sleeping at night. That's what you've got to find out. What are the causes? Not just to say, I'm not sleeping, give me a pill, because otherwise you'll be popping pills 24/7.
But isn't it better just to drink lots of beer or maybe have a couple of whiskeys before you go to bed? And that way you'll sleep a lot better, won't you? And the stress will just melt away.
I don't think that you really mean that, but maybe you do. So, no, the answer is no. Before you go to bed at night, the answer is not to have whiskey and take all your drink and alcohol and your caffeine. That is not the answer. The answer to going to bed at night is getting yourself ready for bed. The same way you get ready in the morning, get yourself ready for bed. So, just because you want to go to bed at 10:30 doesn't mean that your body's ready to go to bed. So, if you've been drinking your whiskey, you've been having your caffeine, you've been going for lots and lots of exercise at 10 o'clock. Why on earth should your body think to itself, this is now time for bed? It doesn't. So, therefore, your brain is working, your brain's in overload, everything's working, working, working. You lay down and think, oh, time to sleep. And I'm going to say to you, really? Because actually, that's not necessarily what's going to happen. So, therefore, you have to get yourself ready for bed.
Right. So we should maybe treat getting ready for bed as part of a ritual that's just as important as getting up in the morning and preparing for work. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Don't forget, brush your teeth as well. So, therefore, you're brushing your teeth, getting yourself ready. That's part of getting ready for bed. This is a ritual. No question of that. This is a habit. If you're not doing it, start doing it. And then all of a sudden, starting to do it then does become a habit. And we like good habits, don't we?
We do. We do. A warm bath always helps. I find that might just be psychological, or it might mean that I come home from the pub a bit earlier than normal in order to have one. But either way, seems to help.
If it the key to it all is, Pete, is whatever helps. If it helps you to have a warm bath, then do that. If it helps you to relax by having candles in your room, relaxing music, whatever that may well be, do that. But here's something not to do. Do not take your phones with you to your bedroom. Because at night, you actually want to be in a situation where if you do wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you need to go to the washroom. You can do that, but not to come back and start scrolling through your phone. I wonder what's going on in Facebook. I wonder what's going on in LinkedIn. I wonder, I wonder. Because all of a sudden, everything your mind is activated, and you think to yourself, oh gosh, now I can't get back to sleep. Well, the answer is you're right. You can't get back to sleep. And who's done it? The answer is you.
The one of the big problems I think nowadays is that with people working remotely and people working on their phones, it's quite difficult to turn off that stress from work when you get home, isn't it?
Very, very difficult. And this is where the boundaries come in. Years ago, dare I say, well, say pre-COVID, when there wasn't so much working from home, people would go to work and then they work and then they come home. And it's bookended either way. So you've got some time to go to work in the morning, time to work in the morning, and then time to come home in the afternoon, and you've got some thinking time and to come home. Now all of a sudden we're working from home. What is working from home is it is either on a desk, it's on a dining room table, wherever it is, it may be in your own office, but you haven't got that break between work and home. So therefore, it's not so easy. People can knock on the door, or they may say, "Oh, just ask you to do something." Yes, I know it's very easy because you can collect the kids from school when you're working from home, and I even put the washing on. There's loads and loads of things that actually go for you working from home. Loads of things that will help the process. You have to be, dare I say it, really, really disciplined. And if you're disciplined, and then this is the end of the day, I'm turning off my phone, I'm turning off my tablet, I'm going to be playing with the children without a phone in your hand, may I say, but actually going to be doing that, then really that's what's going to help. So, therefore, is it more difficult? Yes, it is. Is it another habit? Yes, it is another habit. So let's just get into some of those really good habits. And I really meant what I said. Don't play with your phone while you're playing with the children.
Well, I think that's a really good tip. And I know personally, and many of my friends are pretty much wedded to their phone more than they are to their wives and children. And it really does become a source of stress. I mean, we used to go to work, there'd be politics to deal with, there'd be, maybe even kind of bullying in the office. But once you went home, sanctuary. Doesn't happen anymore unless we enforce it, does it?
That's right. And I think also what we miss when we're working from home, we miss going into the office because there's things like the water cooler. What do I mean by the water cooler? The water cooler is when you actually gathered around the water cooler and you said to somebody there, how are you? Wait long enough for an answer. How was your weekend? There was this human contact. And what working from home gives us is obviously our own time. It takes away commuting, which is great. There's loads and loads of good things about working from home. But we do miss the water cooler situation. So therefore you may say, well, okay, every Monday morning I speak to my team and we have a little chat about how are you, give you 3 minutes for that, and then we get straight into business. It's still not the same as the energy that was created and the communication that is created around the water cooler.
So, what do you think now we've moved into this more remote working environment are the main stressors, the kind of stressors for 2025 that maybe weren't there 10 years ago?
A lot of change. I think some of the main stressors today are dealing with a lot of change. We have AI. We're having to work with AI. Nothing's going to change with that. We're going to move on. That is the future. We have to look at change as an opportunity. And because it's an opportunity, we have to look at how we're going to manage that in ourselves. So that's one of the main causes. Is there work overload? Yes, there's still work overload. But let's not forget, you can also experience work underload if it's work underload is also a stressor, not having enough to do, watching the clock 24/7. We tend to think that work stress is always about work overload, but we very often forget that the work underload. And if somebody is listening to this and are actually managing a team, the question is look out for the people that are bored. Look out for the people who are twiddling their thumbs. That's not so easy when you're working from home. And this is the challenge. So working from home brings its own challenges. It really does. So if you want to keep in contact with somebody, yes, the 2 minutes every now and then about hello and how are you is helpful. Of course it is. But it doesn't really get to how are your kids, how's your wife, how's your husband, how's your spouse, whatever, whatever, whatever. It doesn't get to that. And also the other thing is, big thing here, is that not that many managers know how to actually communicate. When I say communicate, I mean actively listen to somebody, actually listen to what they're saying, how they're saying it, repeating what they're saying, remembering what they've said. You said to me last week, Pete, X, Y, and Z, and you've remembered that. So a lot of people, a lot of managers are trained into position, are promoted into their posts because not their EQ skills, but their IQ skills, their technical skills. So managers promoted because of technical skills, but yet they are sometimes told, "Oh, hello, good morning, John. How would you like to become a manager?" And John says, "Yes, that sounds like a lovely idea." And he says, "Right, okay, fine, with extra money, perfect, great, great, great." And they say, "Well, actually, you're also responsible for 20 people." And they go, "Oh, what? 20 people?" And they say, "Yes." They said, "I don't manage anybody. I'm just about manage myself." So they say, "Well, okay, you'll learn on the job." But I'm going to say to you, yes, John may learn on the job, but at whose expense is it? And that's
You know,
just don't know. Some
you're so right. I've been in so many roles where if somebody is an expert technician, maybe they're an engineer or a programmer, then suddenly the assumption is if you're good at that, then you're going to be brilliant at managing a whole group of similar people. And they're completely different skills.
together with if you've got technicians, you've got scientists, you've got researchers, you've got people that are, say, accountants. They fit into a certain grouping of people, not necessarily they're not necessarily the people you'd go to have to have listener, to be a good listener. So therefore, can a listening skills be taught to accountants? Yes. To researchers? Yes. To IT and tech? Yes. But they do need to be taught.
Yeah, we've got to get away from this command and control into this more sort of touchy-feely and holistic way of viewing people.
Because touchy-feely, it's always it's interesting you said touchy-feely, 'cause there's always like a negative, "Oh gosh, don't get too touchy-feely." And I'm saying, "Why?" If it works for you to say to somebody, "Hello, hello, how are you?" And, wait long enough for a response. If that works, why not do it? If you're going to increase performance and productivity and ultimately profitability from your employee by saying that you value them, you recognize them, and to say, dare I say it, 2 words, thank you for doing their job. If that works, why not do it? So let's not worry about it all just saying, oh, it's touchy feely, we don't want to get involved with that. I'm going to say to you, why not? If it works, do it. And that's what I'm saying. Realistically, we need more listening skills, we need more communication skills, we need people to actively listen. I have been working in the profession for countless years, and that is one of the key issues that I'm always talking about.
Well, I think that's very well said and something that we should all concentrate on. And not just if you're managing a team, if you're working on your own, that can also be difficult because you end up working for a terrorist. You're working for yourself. And people are often harder on themselves than they are on other people, aren't they?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. So let's drop some real value bombs now. So give me and the viewers some concrete tips as to how they can manage the work stress that they're experiencing, whether or not they've got a good boss or a bad boss, how they can take control of their own stress responses and turn them from negative into something more positive.
Okay, first of all, it takes some thinking time, and what I'm suggesting is going to need some thinking time without listening to without listening to AirPods, without listening to music, just some thinking time. And just get a simple sheet of paper. What is causing you stress? Just think about it. Is it people? Write down a list of people. Is it policy? Write down the policies. Is it procedure? I don't know. But actually, before you can do anything about it, you've got to know what you're dealing with. Because if it's, say, for argument's sake, maybe it's Bill, your boss, and you think to yourself, he never listens to me. And I'd say to you, okay, maybe he doesn't. But however, have you tried to have a conversation with him? Oh, he's never going to listen. He's never going to listen. Have you tried? Well, no, because you see, so you can always say to yourself, it's not going to work. So really, know exactly the animal that you're dealing with. If you don't know what you're dealing with, how are you going to come up with any strategies? So if you've got a bullying boss, there's a strategies to actually deal with a bullying boss. If there's another factor of learning to say no, there are strategies on how to learn to say no. If it's about making time for you and boundaries, so home and work, turning off your phone, not being available 24/7, because you know something, the world will not fall to pieces if you're not available 24/7. So it's know what it is that you're dealing with and then start becoming analytical. How can we start looking at some of those issues? What is it we can do to make that help? What are the barriers? What are the barriers are getting in the way of you not being able to, for you not to be able to communicate? Who else do you need to speak to? It could be your organization has an HR department. It could be it has a counseling service. It could be they have occupational health. It could be you need to talk something through with somebody. But until you know what it is, until you know what you're dealing with, you won't know the answer is. So therefore, know exactly what you're dealing with and then write that down. What is the action you need to take to make a difference to help you so it's not going to become a stressor for you?
I know one of the things that many people have problems with, particularly when they may be a little bit concerned that AI is on the horizon, it may be taking their job, and that's saying no. How do you say no without coming over as being a problem employee or somebody who isn't engaged or committed to the company?
Learning to say no is one of the most difficult skills. Why? Because when you say no, you don't want to say no because you want the other person to think you can be all things to all people. So, Pete, would you do this report? Yes, certainly. The fact you've got no time to do it becomes irrelevant. So the challenge that people have is that the person will always dump onto you. Your manager or whoever is your colleague will always dump onto you because you're the nice guy who always says, yes, of course I can. But think of an incident. Think of an incident where, say, John, the manager, says to their employee, can you do this report for me today? And John, the employee, says to them, well, unfortunately, I can't. Well, that's a negative. So what I'd say to you would be is a little technique, a small technique, but really, really useful. So, Mr. Boss, Mr. Boss, as much as I'd like to do the report for you, that's a positive. Unfortunately, I can't. That's a negative. However, what I can do it for you is I can get it ready for tomorrow morning. There's your technique. Plus, minus, plus. It's very simple. Now, people will always remember the last thing that you say to them. So you've actually said, Mr. Boss, but I can do it for 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now, Mr. Boss says, that's no good. It's got to be done for 4 o'clock this afternoon. And you said, that's okay. Fine. This is my workload. You decide what you'd like me to put to one side. That's absolutely fine. And then you can have your report for this afternoon. Now, where's responsibility? It's with the guy that's actually asking the question. So, as much as I'd like to, unfortunately I can't. However, here's the good news. What I can do is, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. What I can do is, and then you leave that person with the exactly what it is that they can do. Simple, really is effective 100%.
I like that because it's putting the onus back on them to prioritize rather than you make personal sacrifices where maybe you work all evening and don't see the kids or fall out with the wife or
Or
whatever.
your stress levels increase, your stress levels
Yeah.
increase so much, and your other work goes to one side. And so are you going to be effective? You're working 11 o'clock at night. You're not going to be effective. So again, there needs to be this communication. So that little technique, plus minus plus, always remember stay at plus or the last thing. So the person, last thing you say, so the person, that's what they remember.
I think that's a really valuable tip. So always make sure you finish on a high where you're delivering value as opposed to be seen as a roadblock. Is that a good way to summarize it?
Exact. That'll do very nice.
Yeah.
That's not the way I put it, but I like that very much. I like it very much.
All right. Well, I think in these few minutes, we've shared, or you shared, some amazing tips. And I think they are things that people should start to put into action immediately because the time to sort this out is before it takes you down and puts you in medication or you end up having sick leave eventually because no one can go on forever, can they?
Not at all, not at all. And I think that there are loads of tips that one can talk about, and we can do that another time. But it's really make sure that you are in control of your body. You're in control of what you eat, how much exercise you do. You're in control of you. Nobody else can do that. So your body is one thing you cannot delegate. I mean, I love delegating. I love organizing. I love delegating. But my body, hey ho, Carol, this is all down to you. So, Carol, no, this you have to manage that one yourself. So, yeah, that's really our personal responsibility. And let's not forget, I haven't asked this question, but just adding on to that, which is whose responsibility is it for stress in the organization? I'm going to say to you, it's a dual responsibility. From the organization takes their responsibility, and the individual also takes their own personal responsibility. So together, they make a whole.
Well, I think what we should do is invite people in the comments to tell us what makes them stressed. And then maybe we can do another episode where we take those individual scenarios and break it down as to how they could take the stress out of it, make it more zen.
Mm, that'll be lovely.
Would you be prepared to do that?
Absolutely.
I think that would be a great idea. Well, Carole, thank you very much. I certainly feel a lot better having spoken to you, but then I always do. And I hope other people have taken away some valuable tips and more importantly, will apply them because all right, knowing it, it's doing it that's the hard thing, isn't it?
Absolutely so.
All right. Well, until next time, thank you very much.
My pleasure.